The weak, one of the stars, the Zarnik's empire was built on power. Every child was trained to fight, to conquer, and to never show pain. But Princess Varila was different. She was born small and silent. Her hands were soft, not made for war. Her voice trembled when she spoke. And when her brothers trained with swords, she sat alone in the royal gardens, staring at the stars. From the moment she could walk, people whispered about her. The weak one, they said, a shame to the bloodline. Even her mother kept her distance, afraid the court would mock her too. But it was her father, the emperor, who gave the final judgment. One cold morning, without a word of comfort, he sent Varila away. Not to a school, not to a safer world, but to a dying, frozen moon no one visited anymore. You will live or die by your own strength, he said coldly. No one will help you. The shuttle dropped her off and vanished into the stars. She stood in the icy wind, wearing thin clothes and carrying only a small bag of tools. The moon was dead. No warmth, no trees, no animals, just rocks, caves, and the constant sound of wind blowing through the cracks of the land. Days passed. Varila built a small shelter from broken ship parts. She found ice to melt for water and learned which rocks gave heat when crushed. She spoke to no one. No messages came. No food drops. Nothing. Alone in the silence, her heart grew heavier. She didn't cry, not because she was brave, but because even her tears had frozen. But someone was watching. A few kilometers away, on a quiet asteroid station, a human engineer named Jack Carter was doing system checks. He had been stationed there for months, fixing old machines that monitored energy waves. Jack was used to quiet, to long nights with only machines for company. But that night, something strange showed up on his scanner, a heat signal on the dead moon. Faint, small, but real. He blinked. No one's supposed to be there. Curious and a little worried, Jack took his small scout craft and flew toward the signal. As he landed, the wind hit his ship hard. Visibility was low, but he followed the signal through the frozen air. That's when he saw her, curled beside a pile of broken metal, shaking, skin pale, eyes half closed. For a moment, he thought she was a ghost. He rushed to her and knelt down. Hey, can you hear me? Her eyes opened just a little. She tried to speak, but only a small breath came out. Jack didn't wait. He wrapped her in a thermal blanket, lifted her into the craft, and flew back to his station. Inside the warm room, Varila woke slowly. She saw the human and backed away, weak and afraid. Don't hurt me, she whispered in her alien tongue. Jack raised his hands. It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you. Just trying to help. Varila didn't trust him. She didn't trust anyone. But the warmth, the smell of food, and the gentle tone in Jack's voice felt different. He gave her time. He cooked soft food and left it near her bed. He spoke little, letting her listen and decide if she wanted to answer. After 2 days, she finally spoke. Why did you help me? Jack smiled a little. Because you needed help. That's what people should do. She stared at him, confused. In her world, weakness was hated. Kindness was mocked. No one helped unless there was something to gain. But this human expected nothing. Slowly, she told her story. About her exile. About her people. About how she was nothing in their eyes. Jack didn't laugh. He didn't call her weak. Instead, he said something she never forgot. Sometimes, the strongest people are the ones who've had to survive alone. Varila looked away. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time, they didn't freeze. Far away, back in the heart of the empire, a silent signal was sent. The frozen moon's sensors had picked up energy movement. And though the emperor didn't care for his daughter, the royal watchers did not ignore strange signals from forgotten places. Something was happening on that moon. Something the stars were about to notice. And the girl once thrown away had just begun her journey. Asterisk a human's kindness. Varila did not sleep for 3 nights. Not because of the cold. Jack had made sure she was warm. Not because of hunger. He had fed her soft human meals she had never tasted before. She stayed awake because her heart did not know how to rest. Kindness was new to her. It felt heavy, like armor she wasn't trained to wear. Jack, on the other hand, worked like nothing had changed. He fixed wires, cleaned solar panels, and adjusted his old radio that barely reached the outer moons. He didn't ask questions. He didn't push. He simply gave her space to heal. Varela watched him from the corner of the small metal room. She tried to study his movements. Humans were supposed to be wild, loud, and full of rage, or so her people taught her. But this one was gentle, calm. He whistled when he worked. He even talked to the machines like they were old friends. One day, he caught her staring. "You don't blink much, do you?" he said with a small grin. Varela turned away quickly. "I was studying." "Studying me?" Jack raised an eyebrow. She nodded. "You are not what I expected." He laughed. Lightly. "That's fair. You're not what I expected either. Thought you were some lost miner at first. Didn't expect a royal exile." Her shoulders stiffened. "You should have left me there." Jack paused. "Why? I am not useful. My own people threw me away. I have no strength. No skill. I was born wrong." Jack put down the tool in his hand and looked at her. "You survived alone on a dead moon. You built a shelter from scrap. You melted ice into water with your bare hands. And you're still breathing. That's not weakness. That's strength." Varela didn't answer. Her throat tightened. The words felt like heat in her chest, unfamiliar and painful. Later that night, Jack made tea. He offered her a cup. She held it gently, confused by the smell. "It's calming," he said. "Earth leaves. My mom used to give it to me when I had nightmares." Varela looked into the steam. "Did your people ever exile you?" Jack shook his head. "No, but I felt alone before. Out here, you start thinking you're invisible. Like no one would notice if you just disappeared." She nodded slowly. "Yes, like that." There was silence for a while. A silence that didn't feel empty this time. The next morning, Varela asked for work. Jack handed her a screwdriver and showed her how to tighten the loose panel on the water filters. Her hands were shaky, her fingers slow. But she tried. She tried with a focus Jack had rarely seen. As days passed, she cleaned, repaired, and learned. She read human books from Jack's old database. Stories of failure, hope, war, and love. She liked the ones where weak people won by heart, not muscle. Each night, Jack told her something new about Earth. He showed her oceans, forests, cities filled with lights. She had never seen green trees or blue water before. In her world, everything was metal, fire, and blood. Earth looked alive. "Do humans hate weakness?" she asked one night. Jack thought carefully. "Some do, but most of us understand it. We've all felt it at some point." Varela looked down. "My people only value those who win battles." Jack tilted his head. "And what do they do when they lose?" "They erase the memory of the weak, like they never existed." Jack leaned forward. "Then maybe your people don't fear weakness. They fear what it reveals. That deep down, they're all afraid to be like you." Those words stayed with her. One evening, a loud bang shook the station. Lights flickered. A system alert flashed red across the monitor. Jack ran to check the feed. A seismic tremor had cracked open an old mine deep beneath the moon's surface. Varela stood behind him. "What does that mean?" Jack's face turned pale. "There's something alive down there." "What kind of thing?" He checked the data again. "Not natural. It's moving fast, and it's coming this way." A cold silence filled the room. Varela's hand clenched the edge of the table. "What do we do?" Jack looked at her. "We survive. Together." And for the first time, Varela didn't feel weak. She felt ready. The test of fire. The sound came before the fear. A low, deep rumble, like the ground itself was growling. Varela stood frozen beside the console, eyes locked on the blinking screen. The motion detector flashed red again and again. Whatever was coming was not small, and it was not stopping. Jack's voice was steady, but his movements were fast. "We have 5 minutes. Maybe less." He handed Varela a toolkit and pointed to the back door. "Get to the storage room. Seal the inner hatch behind you." Varela didn't move. "What about you?" "I'm staying. I need to activate the outer defense panel. If I don't, we both die." She hesitated. Her body remembered fear, the same fear that once made her hide when her brothers fought. But this time, her heart argued back. Jack had saved her without question. Now it was her turn. "I'm not leaving you," she said. Jack looked at her with surprise, but didn't waste time arguing. "Then stay close and don't touch anything unless I say so." They moved fast. The station shook again. Pipes rattled. A loud screech echoed through the outer hallway, metal on metal. Varela grabbed a small plasma cutter, just in case. Her hands trembled, but she didn't let go. Then came the first impact. Something slammed into the side of the outpost. The lights dimmed. A crack spread across one of the front walls. Jack hit the emergency defense button. Old laser turrets powered up outside with a tired hum. Just hold together, he muttered to the station dot on the screen. A creature appeared. Massive, insect-like, with hard armor and glowing eyes. It had been hiding in the mines for years, feeding on radiation. Now, it had smelled life, and it was hungry. The first turret fired. The creature screamed. Then it charged again. The second turret missed. The third jammed. The fourth exploded. Damn it. Jack cursed. That's all we had. The creature rammed into the wall again. Sparks flew. The outer doors bent inward. Jack tried to reroute power to the backup generators, but the system refused. Too old. Too broken. Varela stepped forward. Tell me what to do. Jack turned, eyes filled with urgency. You see that control box? Open it. You'll find 3 wires, red, green, and black. Cut only the green. Then reattach the blue coil to the thermal circuit. She moved without a word. Her fingers worked fast, remembering everything he taught her in the past few days. Her hands didn't shake this time. The circuit lit up. Emergency. Power redirected. A new turret came online. Inside the hallway, the creature broke through the outer shell. Jack raised his old pulse gun. Varela stood beside him with the plasma cutter. You ever use one of these? He asked. No, she said. But I will now. The creature entered. Too fast, too strong. Jack fired, hitting its legs. The beast screamed but kept charging. Varela ran forward, ducked low, and slid beneath it. She slashed upward with the cutter, striking the soft underside. A burst of blue blood sprayed across the floor. The creature reared up and slammed the wall, trying to shake her off. Jack shouted her name, but she held on. Forget weakness, she screamed. With one last strike, she cut into the beast's chest. It collapsed with a loud, thunderous crash. Silence returned. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Jack walked over, panting. He offered her his hand. You okay? Varela looked up. I didn't freeze. No, he said. You burned. She stood slowly. Her clothes were torn. Her arms were shaking, but there was fire in her eyes, a fire she had never known before. That night, Jack treated her wounds. Neither of them spoke much, but something had changed. The girl who once couldn't lift a sword had just taken down a beast alone. Back on. The Zarnik's capital, a hidden satellite received a signal. Emergency energy spike detected on the Forgotten Moon. The royal guards read the report. Their eyes widened. The name listed in the alert? Princess Varela. Asterisk royal blood still burns. The palace walls of Zarnik's Prime had not heard Varela's name in years. In the Great Hall, her portrait had long been removed, her birth erased from the official records. To the Empire, she was a mistake, a shadow, a lesson for others not to be weak. But now, her signal had returned. A high-ranking general stared at the report in disbelief. She survived, he whispered. She killed a Karth beast with a human? The Emperor read the same report, his face like stone. Around him, his council remained silent, too stunned to speak. Finally, he tore the report in half and growled. Bring her back, alive or dead. 2 royal ships were dispatched immediately. Their orders were simple. Recover the exiled princess and eliminate the human who sheltered her. Back on the frozen moon, Varela stood outside the outpost, staring at the stars. Her body ached, her cuts still healing, but she felt taller, stronger, heavier with meaning. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a mistake. Jack joined her with 2 cups of warm drink. He handed one to her and smiled. Still standing out here like you belong to the sky. She took the cup, eyes still on the stars. Maybe I do. He sat beside her. You know you've changed. A lot. She nodded. I don't fear myself anymore. Good, Jack said. Because we have bigger things to worry about. He turned his tablet to her. A signal blinked across the screen. 2 incoming ships. Not pirates. Not traitors. Royal warships. Varela's breath caught. They're here for me. Jack looked at her calmly. Do we hide? She clenched her fists. No. I hid my whole life. Not anymore. They prepared together. Jack adjusted the station's systems, rewiring old traps and shields. Varela cleaned weapons and studied the terrain. But it wasn't fear that guided her now. It was focused. As the ships approached, a deep hum filled the sky. They landed near the station, cracking the ice with their force. From the smoke stepped tall figures in silver armor, their royal insignia. Clear, leading them was Commander Drax, Varilla's cousin. Strong, brutal, loyal to the Emperor, he looked at her with cold eyes. "Princess," he said mockingly. "Still breathing, I see." She didn't flinch. "Is that a problem? You shamed the bloodline. Then you rose from the dead and dared to fight. The court is disturbed." "Good," she said softly. "They should be." Drax raised a hand. "You're coming with us. The human dies." Before Varilla could speak, Jack stepped forward. "You'll have to go through me first." Drax smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." Varilla stepped between them. "Enough. If you want to judge me, then I claim my right." Drax paused. "Right to what?" "To trial by honor. One-on-one combat." Gasps came from the soldiers. Even Jack looked surprised. "Is that real?" he whispered. She nodded. "It's ancient law. If I win, I choose my path. If I lose, I die." Drax grinned. "Then let us remind you why you were exiled." The challenge was accepted. The fight would begin at dawn. That night, Jack tried to talk her out of it. "You don't have to prove anything to them." "Yes," she said, "I do. Not because I need their approval, but because I need to show the girl I used to be that she was never truly broken." Jack nodded. "Then I'll be in your corner. Always." As the sky darkened and cold winds howled again across the moon, Varilla sharpened her blade. Not just the steel, but her will. Tomorrow, she would face the bloodline that cursed her. And this time, she would not kneel. The chains of honor. The first light of dawn crept over the icy moon, painting the broken land in pale gold. The snow did not fall that morning. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Varilla stood in the center of the ancient ring, an old dueling ground carved into the ice by warriors long dead. She wore no royal armor, just a lightweight combat suit Jack had adjusted for her, stitched with human tech and alien memory. Her weapon was simple, a sword made from the station's reinforced plating, shaped by her own hands. Across from her stood Commander Drax, tall and proud in ceremonial armor, polished to shine like silver. His weapon was traditional, a curved energy blade passed down from generations of Zarnik's warlords. "You should kneel, cousin," he said with a sneer. "It will make your death less shameful." "I've knelt enough for a lifetime," Varilla replied, steady as stone. The guards circled the ring. Jack stood outside, his jaw clenched, his fingers twitching by his side. He couldn't interfere. Zarnik's law was clear. A trial of honor must be one against one. The horn sounded. Drax struck first, fast, brutal, like a hammer made of fire. Varilla dodged, barely. Her breath caught, her arms already aching from the force. He moved like a trained killer. Each swing meant to end her quickly, but she didn't fight like him. She wasn't trying to crush. She was trying to last. She remembered Jack's lessons, how Earth's fighters used speed, timing, and brain. She stayed close to the ground, ducked under his reach, and used his size against him. Still, his blade grazed her shoulder. She hissed in pain but stayed upright. Drax laughed. "Is this your strength? Running and hiding?" "No," she said, circling him. "This is patience, something your pride never learned." He growled and lunged again. This time she rolled aside and slashed his side. The strike wasn't deep, but it was enough to draw blood. Gasps echoed around the ring. No one had ever touched Drax in combat. Varilla stood tall, breathing hard. "Your armor is heavy. Your pride is heavier." Drax roared and charged blindly. And that was his mistake. She sidestepped, twisted, and struck with everything she had. Her blade cracked against his helmet, and he stumbled, falling to one knee. The crowd went silent. Drax looked up, dazed. Varilla pointed her blade at him. "Yield," she said firmly, "or I will end this." His hand trembled. His pride screamed. But the law was clear. He dropped his weapon. The trial was over. Varilla turned to the soldiers. "You all saw it. I won by honor. I am no longer in exile." One by one, the guards lowered their weapons and bowed, not just to tradition, but to her. Jack rushed to her side, breathless. "You did it." She smiled weakly. "No, we did it." Drax was taken away, not in chains, but in silence. The shame would follow him longer than any prison. Later that night, inside the warm outpost, Varilla sat by the small heater, staring at the stars again. "I thought I needed to be strong. Like them," she whispered. but I just needed to be strong like me. Jack handed her a small badge, the same one she had dropped when she first arrived. It was once a symbol of her title. Now, it was a symbol of her journey. She looked at it, then placed it beside his own human patch. Point two worlds. One bond, and above them, the stars burned brighter. Asterisk the rise of a new princess word traveled faster than light that on planets where Varila's name had once been forgotten, it now spread like fire in the wind. Stories were told of the exiled princess who returned not with armies, but with resolve, who defeated a decorated commander not through brute strength, but with cleverness, patience, and heart. Back on Zarnik's prime, the Empire's citizens whispered her name with awe. Children repeated her story in playgrounds. Soldiers questioned old traditions. Scholars updated the royal archives to add a name once erased. And in the great court, the emperor was silent. His own daughter had won a trial of honor, called on ancient law, and stood victorious without his help. The court expected him to reclaim her, reward her, bring her home. But Varila had other plans. She did not return to sit on a throne. She didn't want the golden robes or the voice of command. What she wanted was change. From the small outpost on the frozen moon, she sent out a transmission. It was short, but powerful. I was thrown away because I was weak. I believed it. I lived it. But now I know But now I know strength isn't what they taught us. Real strength is standing when everyone expects you to fall. If I can rise, so can you. Across the empire, something stirred. Weaklings, outcasts, the disabled, the gentle-hearted, all. Those who had been shamed for not fitting the mold, they listened. And for the first time, they felt seen. Soon, other exiles reached out. Survivors, healers, artists. Even soldiers who had once laughed at her now began to question their beliefs. Varila didn't give speeches. She led by example. She helped Jack repair damaged systems across nearby colonies. She taught self-defense to young girls once told they were too soft. She worked beside farmers, builders, and mechanics, and always, Jack was by her side. Quietly, faithfully. One evening, as they repaired an old water pipe under a mountain shelter, Jack wiped grease off his hands and looked at her. You've become something bigger than royalty. She tilted her head. What am I then? He smiled. Your hope. She paused, then smiled back. That's heavier than a crown. Later, the emperor summoned her to return, offered her full royal command, wealth, title, even a private army. She sent only one message back. I don't need your power. I already found mine. The court fell silent again. Varila had not just returned. She had rewritten what it meant to be royal. The frozen moon, once her prison, became a place of pilgrimage. Aliens from different species came to see where the princess of the ice had risen. They didn't come for the view. They came to remember what it meant to rise from nothing. One visitor, a young Zarnix girl with twisted limbs and broken wings, whispered as she looked up at the station, she's like me. And that was all Varila had ever wanted, to make sure no one ever felt like they had to hide again. The princess was no longer a forgotten name in a dead system. She was a symbol, a living fire that would never burn out. Asterisk stars remember her name long after the battle ended, long after the Empire stopped calling her exile. Varila still lived on the frozen moon, not because she had to, but because it was where she became herself. The once empty outpost had grown. It was no longer just a shelter, it was a home. And not just for Varila and Jack, but for many. The outcasts, the lost, the broken, those the galaxy forgot, had started coming one by one, drawn by whispers of the princess who turned pain into power. They brought pieces of their broken lives. And Varila helped them rebuild. Each room of the outpost became something new. A healing bay, a learning hall, a forge, a nursery. Life, once exiled, had returned. Jack watched her from afar sometimes, amazed. The girl who once hid from her own reflection now stood tall among dozens, her voice calm, her eyes clear. She didn't speak like a queen. She spoke like someone who had tasted death and chosen to live anyway. One night, under a sky full of stars, she stood beside Jack on the roof of the station. Snowflakes drifted softly around them. Catching the light, he handed her a small, round object, an old earth locket. What is it? She asked. Something we give to those we care about. Inside is a memory, a promise. She opened it and found a photo, herself, holding a young girl who had arrived weeks ago. The girl had no family, no name. But Varila had given her both. Varila touched the locket gently. Why give this to me? Jack smiled. Because no matter how far we fall, someone has to remember we climbed back. She looked up at the stars. Do you think they remember? He nodded. They never forget those who rise. And indeed, they didn't. Across the galaxy, murals appeared. Songs were written. Children played games where they pretended to be the Princess of Ice. Soldiers decorated their armor with silver lines, honoring her story of survival and strength. Even on Zarnik's prime, where her name was once erased, a new statue rose. Not one of metal or gold, but carved from ice, glowing softly in the light. Below it, for words were etched, strength wears many faces. But the greatest monument was not in a palace or city. It was in the hearts of those she touched. Point 1. Day, a ship from the Emperor arrived, without weapons, without commands. It carried only one message, a simple note written by the old ruler himself. You changed what it means to be royal. I was wrong, and you were always right to believe in something better. Virila folded the note and tucked it into the locket. Then she walked back to the outpost where laughter echoed in the halls, where stories were shared at night, and where no one, ever, was called weak again. She was no longer just the girl who was cast out. She was the fire that lit up a forgotten moon. And the stars, they remembered her name. Forever.